Good morning, you beautiful bunch of Fockers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It's Monday, January 12th. Time for some industry insights. My co-host seems to be running a little late this morning. That would be Brent Hutto. We do have a guest joining us today, a returning guest. We'll be bringing everybody in here in just a minute. It looks like Brent is here with us now. I'm going to bring both Brent and Todd in. Hold on. Got to hit all the right buttons. Good morning, guys.
I hope so. Good morning, partner. How are you?
Good. Good morning, Todd.
Yeah, I'm jumping on the live stream here.
All right. Todd, great to have you back.
All right.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Happy Monday.
Well, I'm glad you got a fun person to join because I'm on a short rope today. So
Yeah, we'll the three of us will talk about some industry stuff, and then when you guys have to go, we'll turn it over to a free for all and see what everybody wants to talk about today. So, Brent, where are you today? On the road somewhere.
Well, there you go. Here I am. I'm at the here you go for the tribe. I'm at the Transportation Research Board annual meeting in Washington, D.C. This is all of the government agencies that handle all of the administration for what we do going up and down the roads for all transportation. This isn't just commercial truck transportation. It's, for waterways and for the airways and for drones and everything else. I just walked out of a meeting. The reason I'm on a little bit of a short rope today, KR, is the gentleman that I wanted to hear speak, which is a guy named Michael Rutherford. I think I mentioned his name last week, the week before, that we had met with him in D.C. He's the assistant deputy secretary for the multimodal part of freight, which sounds kind of funny. But that's how he speaks in just a few minutes, and I wanted to hear him speak. And because we're going to be doing some things with him on the freight end, on the cargo theft end, on the parking end, on all ends of what's going on. He's a big advocate for what we do in transportation.
Got it. All right. That sounds like good stuff. So, Todd, what's on your mind today?
I'm just hanging out in lovely Carver, Minnesota at home, enjoying the view of the snow and sunshine.
Snow and sunshine. That's better than snow and no sunshine.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, it's been really, really mild here this winter. We haven't even had freezing temperatures yet.
Wow. Yeah, it's been a little rougher than the last 2 years for us, but not horrible.
Yeah, well, you guys are used to it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's just normal stuff for you. So, Brent, since we've got limited time here, let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the industry. Did we talk about the broker margins last week?
No, we did not. Although they've been kind of getting pinched more recently, yeah.
Yeah, I must have read that article right after because I talked about it a little bit last week. Broker margins were under 10%.
Yeah. Oh, now you did mention this. Wait a minute. You mentioned it a little bit.
Yeah.
We didn't go at length into it, but you mentioned it a little bit now, and so some would say, well, wow, that's a big deal, blah, blah, blah. Well, that shows overall health in the marketplace. So, which is obviously really important to all of us.
Yeah. And it's one of those weird anomalies where rates could go up, but their margins can go down. It almost seems like we're seeing a little bit of what we've seen in the carrier market as well, where we've got one group really struggling, and we've got another group that says, what freight recession? They're doing just fine. It seems to be the difference is expenses. Their margins are down overall, but somebody in there is doing just fine. The reason I bring it up, not to just try to figure out overall health of where we're going, because it seems like it's a little odd. Rates are going up, their margins are going down. That seems like that's just backwards, but that's what's happening right now. I bring it up to protect the carriers. With margins that bad, brokers are going to go out of business.
Right.
And you don't want to be left holding the bag.
No, you do not. You do not.
I know this is a surprising thing to hear from me, but I'd be using a lot of quick pay or factoring options right now. Get your money as quick as you can. Don't be. Here's the other thing you have to watch for. You know, we're talking about rates going up. You know, the reefer rates went through the roof. So you start to expect to see higher rates, which we should see some of that. But here's a clue. If rates from a particular broker start going up even more than normal, it's usually because they're desperate to move rate. And that's the time you've got to really be careful. Be careful of those rates that seem too good to be true.
Well, there's a lot of truth in that. Todd, you can speak to that one, man. Yeah. There's no doubt. Yeah, for sure.
Todd, what do you think?
You're definitely, if you see that movement, you definitely know that they're feeling pinched to service the loads for the customer. It's typical for a period of time to see as rates go up, brokers' margins to be pinched if they're living on contracted freight. So if they have a contracted freight rate to the customer, but yet their rates to the carrier then go up, it's going to pinch and impede on their margins. The tricky thing for brokers the last 2 or 3 years are the unknowns. And so they go into an RFP and have to sign up to a certain level of freight volume at a certain rate without knowing what's going to happen in the market for the next year or so. And so I think that's the other thing that's pinched margins is this increased competitiveness in the broker industry to gain share or gain market share, leaving little room for margin on the contracted freight. And so I think that combined with now the fact that rates are going up, you see that squeeze. And then what happens is if additional spot volume and or contractual volume, so while they have the contractual agreement, they haven't seen the full volume that a shipper is committed to them most likely. And so then that volume is going to go up and they're going to be squeezed even more to move that same or a higher amount of contracted volume at that same rate. And that's where, like you said, Kevin, you're going to see the desperation and the rates moving up that as soon as that momentum starts happening, it can start to induce a change in the overall market as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks from that perspective.
Yeah, you know, I took the TIA's annual report on, you know, broker revenue expenses, all that, and I just ran it through some analysis at you know, less than 10% margins. The average broker's probably overall, when you look at their overall cost, if they're only making 9 something on the load itself, most average mid-sized brokers would be losing money on every load. It was like $15 a load if you just did the averages at that rate. And this is one of those things, you can't make it up in volume. If you're losing on every load, it's just not really going to matter much. But the numbers looked horrendous.
Correct. And so, yeah, your typical brokerage profile is been based off for years. It's been that 15%. Now it ranges anywhere from 12 to 20 typically. 15%, and they net, a broker will only net 4 to 6% in profit of that total. So everybody hears 15% margins and thinks that the broker's making 15%, which is not true. That's their gross margin.
Correct.
And so at the end of the day, they're typically only coming home with 4 to 6%. And so, like you said, you eat away at that, and you're at 9 to 10%. You're not making profit. Now the conversation steps into, well, are they more efficient and is their cost basis lower so that they're making money? I don't believe it is for the majority today. I believe there's been some incremental improvements in how technology has enabled them to be more efficient, but not to that extent, I don't believe. You remember with digital freight matching, everybody was saying margins are going to shrink and lower, and it just hasn't become the case. But now it's going to be interesting as both the market dynamics and the path that technology is taken, as those collide. Is this the new norm? And brokers are going to have to find a way to provide sub 10 or execute at sub 10% margins, or is it just a function of where the market is today?
Yeah, great analysis. Something else I saw, 2 of the articles that popped up in my feed this morning. It just tells us what a lousy place we are in the industry right now. This one, North Carolina's 54% CDL failure rate exposes licensing rot. So it turns out they went in and did an audit of the CDLs issued in North Carolina. 54% of them failed. They shouldn't have been issued. 54%.
Wow.
And then another one here on the safety side. Texas troopers take 74% of trucks stopped out of service. How did we get to a place with numbers that bad?
Trucks stopped? Well, trucks that are stopped.
Yeah, trucks.
Well, Texas is obviously a very, very large state for the movement of freight, and certainly unless the numbers have changed, it's the largest move in the spot market freight.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised. But when you also can look at this, and this is the numbers I showed you a while back, KR, where you talked about the non-domiciled license that were issued in Texas, and I think it was the year in 2021 they were normally averaging about 18,000 a year. They issued 121,000 in 1 year in the state of Texas. And so, and you got cross-border going through Texas, tremendous cross-border coming through Texas, which you got some Mexican drivers that decide to stay over here. And, who knows? I mean, I think what you're seeing, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here at this Transportation Research Board, which is, there's 12,000 people here. So it's, and this is all the government entities and the academics and research people that feed government entities. What you're going to see and you continue to see is the righting of the ship. Writing like it's pitched one way or the other, needs to be righted, and so you're going to see that in our industry, and it's going to be a little painful for those players that came in under false pretenses, because they're going to get jettisoned really fast. It kind of goes back to that article I sent over to you from Noel about immigration policy and trucking, and there's a chance that somewhere between 400,000 and 750,000 drivers could be exited from our industry because they're just not qualified to be in the market, whether they're illegals or not qualified because of however they got trained. So there's a lot going on in our marketplace.
Well, if you go to the extreme, let's think about it for a second. If you go to the extreme, I can't even imagine how that's going to work. If you took 700,000 drivers
20%.
Out of the
20%.
market, I don't even know how that works.
Well,
if you take out the bottom end of that range, it gets hard to predict. If you cut it in half and say we're going to take 200,000 out, it's still a huge shift.
Yeah, it's a big shift. And what you got to think about is obviously we don't want unqualified players in the marketplace, but it also puts an impedance on those coming into the industry. So replacement factor for trucks, if those trucks are truly even needed for the capacity in our marketplace. So there's just so much going on. That's the reason why I'm here. The first guy that spoke talked about drones, talked about autonomous trucks, which, by the way, the administration, our president, is kind of pressing the gas in all areas about doing these things. So the first guy talked about automation, automate trucks. The second guy talked about drone delivery. So the guy that I want to hear is just talking about trucks. So I want to make sure I get to hear what he has to say so I can report back to the tribe. And then also, just work within the industry to say, how do we need to feed these guys the proper information to be able to help trucking? And look, they do care a tremendous amount about trucking because they know the power, the benefits and influence that trucking brings to the American citizen. They know it.
Yeah, we talk a lot about change and how change keeps accelerating, and I'm pretty sure that in 2026, I have a feeling next year at this time when the three of us are talking about this, we're going to be talking about significantly different things. I think we are in for a year of bigger changes than any of us can even imagine.
Well, I would agree because all the foundation will have been set inside of these government organizations, which whenever they talk about our President Trump, and then they talk about Secretary Duffy, it's always their agenda. So it's not like you don't hear a lot of pushback from the DOT on, we'll see or sort of thing. Right. This is a press pedal to the metal, get it done now.
All gas, no brakes.
And here, that's right. Here's the word I want to give you because this is being used in our government. It's all formulated around the four words. How are we driving lower costs but better results for people?
Right.
So lower costs for the citizen, but better results for the people that are serving the citizens. You hear this, I've heard this over and over and over by our government entities.
Yeah. And if we think about it, this administration has free reign for a year. You know, we've got midterms coming up, which might shift the balance. Who knows what could happen there? But they're not slowing down on anything. We have another year. They've accomplished an awful lot in 1 year. We've got another full year of this, which is in my opinion, pretty exciting because I like all the direction. It's just hard to figure out. Something else, and I've just got to say it, something that's driving change faster than I think anybody expected is how fast AI is advancing. I don't, even when you talk to the founders of these companies, this is a little scary, but the talk in that industry right now is we didn't expect it to advance this fast, and we're not sure how it's happening.
Todd, Kevin, follow the money. Okay, follow the money, follow the money. If I learned anything from Noah Perry, follow the money. About 20% of all of the new investment in our overall economy, GDP, is in AI.
Yeah.
So follow the money. It's going to come. It's going to come really fast. It's going to come really, really super fast. Hey, before I got a couple of minutes left, let me just cover a couple of things. Rates did drop about 10%. Well, Todd, make a comment on AI, and then I'll do the market update with this.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're following money, and you see that momentum happening so quick. Now is for us in transportation, it's time to say, okay, how do we utilize or come to terms with what this means for us in transportation as quickly as possible and get to realization of benefit, rather than chasing some pie-in-the-sky views of what AI can potentially do that will distract us, but getting it usable for drivers and carriers and connecting the ecosystem is really huge. I think that to me is like what we should be focused on. How can we not be distracted by it, but get it to usable functionality rather than chasing the pie-in-the-sky dreams?
Very well said. One more quick comment. When I saw Donald Broughton speak a month or so ago, he said something and it really clarified a lot for me. He said, if you look back at every technological revolution we've been through, we overestimate its early impact. We underestimate its long-term impact. And I think that's exactly what's happening. We had that big excitement early on. AI is going to change everything. It's going to happen right now, right? And really not seeing huge changes yet. We're seeing a lot of experimentation. Todd, like you were saying, what there's all kinds of things it can do, but what's the really practical stuff we should be using it for? So I think there's been a little bit of this looking around saying, well, I don't really see what AI is doing. And you don't see it yet, but I think in the next 5 years, it's going to be incredible what it changes.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Hey, my guy just hit the stage, so let me give the update. Load posting volumes went up dramatically. You think that first week of January always does this, so this is pretty normal. I know we're at the 12th. So very, very normal. I mean, we're probably 20 to 25% above normal postings on a 5-year average. So it's way up. So there's plenty of freight more available. But this is normal. Remember, there's a depression right during the holiday system. Rates dropped 10 cents overall. And so all three segments, van, flatbed, and reefer, the biggest was refrigerator. Refrigerator went down about 18 cents, but it was already way, way, way up.
Right.
The outbound tender reject index for the sonar product was still at 9.4, almost 9.5%. So here's the thing: rates are still going to continue to move up. Even though we have a dip, this is normal. We go way up during the holidays and it drops down a little bit, and we'll see over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Did the rate increases we saw during the holidays, is that a trend that we're going to continue to see rates to go up just a little bit more and more, maybe at a little bit more increased pace? But hey, let me run, Kevin. I'm so sorry I got to run.
All right, no problem.
I want to hear this guy speak because how he can help us. All right, buddy. Thanks,
Todd. Can report to us.
Bye. I'll do it. Bye.
All right. All right, Todd, we're going to turn this into a free-for-all today. Any final words?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I agree with you as far as I think we're in for a lot more change this year than we would expect. I think as you see these out of service violations increasing that we saw, I think two things. One, the topics Brent talked about, but two, the pressure on costs of fleet management and driver management has also probably impacted that, I would anticipate, as even good companies are often forced to extend preventative maintenance tactics and other things like that, and are trying to do more with less. And so there's multiple pressures happening on both the good and the bad actors in the ecosystem that in turn, I think will just have this fuel under this fire that's brewing as we look into some unknowns taking place this year. But
yeah, a couple things I've been noticing that I think are going to change things in a way we didn't necessarily see. We've been talking about autonomous vehicles since around 2017, 2018. There was a big rush into it back then, and everybody made all kinds of wild predictions, and most of them were wrong. Now what's happening, I think, is that the AI has advanced so much that these vehicles are early on there was a lot of talk about cameras and LiDAR and radar and all these other things. And it seems like the shift now is not so much hardware, it's software. It's AI advancing. I don't know if I've been following a bunch of people that do nothing but post videos about Tesla full self-driving mode. And
yep.
I follow a guy who one of them just logged 12,000 miles and another one almost 20. They said in all those miles, not one single human intervention was needed. No warnings popped up.
Wow.
They didn't have to touch the controls. Didn't matter if there was brand new construction, it finds its way through. This is primarily driven by AI. This isn't any advance in hardware. It's just the AI getting smarter faster. The other thing I didn't really see coming was the AI's impact on these humanoid robots. These things are pretty incredible all of a sudden, and it seemed to come out of almost nowhere. That the difference now is they're very easily trainable because of the advances in AI.
Yep. Absolutely. It's been fascinating to watch that. And to see even Waymo's traction. Go ahead.
No, finish that thought.
Well, just to see Waymo's traction in areas where Lyft, Uber, and Waymo are both present, the amount of efficiency Waymo has over those is incredible. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. It was over, I think it was 40 to 50% more efficient.
Wow.
While they don't have the scale yet, they've really shown in those cities that they have just been able to be way more productive in those areas. And then there's also the safety argument that would argue that they're safer as well. So I was just watching a video myself on Tesla versus Waymo as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you follow all of this on X, and you have to believe that this is this way for a reason. Now, I believe that Tesla is probably more advanced than Waymo systems, just because everything that company does seems to be more advanced. But if you follow this on X, you will see Tesla just never failing anything, and somehow every Waymo video I watch is a problem. Like it got stuck, it didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But we have to remember who owns X and the algorithm. So I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of bias on some of that stuff too. Here's something else that's really interesting about AI, and this is absolutely a thing. I thought it was. I'm now totally convinced. I'm pretty big into the vibe coding. I mean, I'm building some incredible apps. I've probably got 12 different apps going on. Some of them are in full production. We're using them internally for workflow, and it has saved so many hours. You can't even imagine how efficient it is. Now, we said from the beginning, I will never use AI to replace a human being. I will use AI to make my employees so much better at what they do, and we'll just produce more. We don't need to cut cost with this by trying to replace humans. We can use it to make everybody in our company much more effective and much more efficient. So I'm pretty heavy into this, and my business partner is, and my son is now. So we all compare notes about vibe coding. And this last weekend convinced me. This is not something that's consistent. So about a month or so ago, whatever it was, when Anthropic brought out their newest model, Opus 4.5, it changed everything. It was so far advanced in so many things. You felt the difference immediately. And I've been getting incredible amounts of work done since. And then this weekend, I had planned almost the entire weekend. I said, I've got to get one of these projects finished. And I had hoped to get it done over the weekend. I was just going to work as much as I could. I am so frustrated. It feels like Opus 4.5, which is the model, over this weekend was replaced by its retarded twin brother. I feel like I went back a year and I thought, what is going on? Am I just having a bad day? Is it me? Am I giving it the wrong prompts? What am I doing that all of a sudden I'm just struggling with almost every task? And I got up this morning and I was scrolling X. There's posts about it everywhere. So it is a thing. Yeah. The servers are overloaded. Whatever happens, it does not perform consistently, which is odd for technology. That's one of the things about computers are pretty consistent, except AI's not.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I had not seen that, but it's fascinating. What's going to be interesting to see how quickly can they correct it and get it to at minimum parity, but an actual improvement ahead of its predecessor. So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch in this journey. And one or two wrong turns by some of these companies are going to put them behind the ball in the others. And so the pressures are, there's this rush and competition to get there first and be the fastest. But if you continue to have these falters, what's that mean to your ability to retain and grow share?
Yeah, here's another odd thing about what's going on in that part of AI, the vibe coding thing. Cursor is the gorilla. Cursor, hit early, really effective. People love Cursor. I've been using Cursor for 7 or 8 months, almost exclusively, because it was just better. But here's the thing. Cursor is not an AI. Cursor is just a vibe coding platform that uses AI. So when I'm in there working, I can choose from 24 different AI models. I can use Grok, I can use ChatGPT, I can use Codex, I can use Cursor or Claude's models. You've got all these choices of models. The problem is, and Cursor went from 0 to $1 billion company. It's one of the fastest ever. They've grown like crazy. The problem is now I just stopped using Cursor because Claude itself now does everything Cursor used to do for me. So why would I use Claude and Cursor when now I can just use Claude? It simplified my workflow. It actually works better. Gemini, which is Google's, has its own vibe coding platform. Grok just announced they're going to be releasing their vibe coding platform. Cursor could be the fastest company to go from 0 to $1 billion and $1 billion to 0. I don't know what they're going to do.
It's fascinating. And you almost, decision fatigue is a real thing, right? And so there's a benefit in having access to all those different tools, but then it's like, does it start to change if you're using different ones and not know how to interact with them? Like I've used ChatGPT and Claude a lot, and I love Claude for a lot of responses, especially with more research oriented. I've messed around with Base 44 from a vibe coding standpoint, but I've not got into it near as much as you have. But I reached this stage of not knowing what to use when and who. Like we have Copilot in our team, but it can access ChatGPT 5. But I'm like, is this my internal? Is this my web result? Is it GPT platform? What fonts and what do I like better is incredibly.
Oh, Todd, are you there?
I'm there.
Oh, there we go.
Did you lose me?
Yeah, I don't know if it's on my end or yours, but you just faded out there for a minute. Yeah, that's another thing I haven't even started to get into, this idea of with AI, we're not even sure what we're getting. We're not even sure what's happening when we're using this. My guess is that over this weekend, I probably was not using Opus 4.5. My guess is their servers have some sort of an overflow and they kick certain jobs off to the other models when it gets too crowded. That's what I felt like. It's just like, this isn't the same model I was just using yesterday. I can tell the difference. For a while in Cursor, and you talk about, decision fatigue, Cursor has the ability to give the same task to multiple models. So like I might line up 5 different models up top and give them all this. Hi, I'm Kevin Rutherford. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe or leave a comment below. It really helps us get the show out to more people. If you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, you can sign up with the link below.